Thank you for coming to this town hall meeting regarding the change in the leadership structure for 2018 and 19. I'm Janine Galligan, this year's governing board president, and the purpose of this meeting is to explain verbally what was written in the letter. So as always, the governing board always starts with the interests of the students and our kids in mind, and to tie into our mission, vision, and values. Our goal as a governing board was to minimize the impact on the students, the board, and the staff. And so we wanted to maintain our excellent leadership for the coming years. What we decided to focus on was a balance of operations and academics. And as a result, we broke down the new leadership structure into these domains: academics, operations, and finance. So to explain the first domain of academics, we'll have the Director of Academics, Becky Bonner, come in.
Thank you. Okay, so basically the title is different, but what I have been doing will continue under this new role. Calling myself the Director of Academics, I think we've been talking about the simplest way for you to think about my role is anything that's happening involving students and teachers within the classroom, within the school day. So that can encompass, all of these pieces: teacher performance, student learning, the whole spectrum of learners. So everything from our special education students to our advanced learners to our second language kiddos, every learner that may have a unique plan. It also includes assessment and using the data to inform where we go next with instruction, as well as our continual improvement planning that we're required to do for the state. All of that is about teaching and learning and revolves around relationships between students and teachers. Also under this domain is behavior and culture within the school, which has been my charge all along as assistant principal. So that doesn't change. The personnel who would directly report to me and I would be supervising are the teaching staff and instructional aides, as well as homeschool teaching staff. All of those fall under academics. And when we say authority on this particular slide, what we're talking about is which director is guiding growth, movement, decision-making in that arena. And obviously we have been operating as a team and discussing options and coming to conclusions kind of collaboratively. But as far as directing and making those final decisions, that comes down in this range of authority. So when we make a decision regarding curriculum or instruction in the classroom, hiring of teaching staff, we're going to interview together, but ultimately we're going to decide this one person. It would be me making the offer and that sort of thing and following up, as well as improvement planning. We always set goals and say this is going to be the focus for this school year around teaching and learning. And in our improvement plan, as we measure our growth in particular areas, all of that work is guided by me. Has been in the past and will continue to be that way. In addition to behavioral interventions, either school-wide goals that we set for engaging students as productive citizens with quality character, also addressing behavioral issues as they come up, regardless of the grade level. Committees on which I will serve and provide leadership to our SAC, which I currently am in that role. PTO, Mike had been closely aligned in PTO, and with his absence I will take on the regular attendance and just involvement there, as well as dress code, which continues to kind of be under me. And I think something that's important to keep in mind when we're talking about these director positions, even though we have these personnel, we have people leading under us. It's not like we're doing every one of these things. When you think about MTSS, for example, and you think about special education, or you think about English language learners, we have coordinators and teachers working with those students. It's just me they're reporting to. So the daily work with the child really doesn't shift at all. I think that's it for Director of Academics.
Okay, thank you for taking the time to listen and learn about our new model. We're really excited about this. The board has been very supportive. We've worked through this collaboratively, and we do think that this is going to cause the least disruption and allow us to stay on the trajectory that we've set over the last several years. My role will move from Director of Innovation and Student Leadership over to Director of Operations. And as Becky had mentioned before, a lot of what she has been doing is what she will be doing, and that is very much repeated in my role. So I will take on some new responsibilities from Mr. Meunier, but I will, for the most part, still take care of the things that I was working on previously. So in the Director of Operations role, I'm in charge of the facility itself, where Becky's really about the relationship between students and teachers and the learning process. There's an entire set of staff, resources, and facility that has to be in place in order to make that possible. So I'm here to guarantee that that is all in order. So the technology management, that's the infrastructure, that's the equipment, that's the software, that's the training we do for teachers. Communications, I think you all have experienced our recent communications rebranding and new communications model with our new website and our school app, the appointment of a communications coordinator in Heidi Kruglet, our new newsletter format. So we are going to continue that whole project down the road and into the years to come. I'm also going to be taking over building maintenance. I've really been more on the remodel side of things in my past role, but I'll be doing more of the contracts for our landscape and snow removal, contracts for our cleaning services, any repair or remodel that we have that comes up in the future based on a failure of a system, maybe a rooftop unit or plumbing. Any other thing that falls under facility, that would be under my domain. As well, the lunch program and student leadership, they're not part of the everyday classroom. They're a big part of what it takes to run the school and make sure that the kids have the best possible environment, but it isn't about a teacher and student. So our contract for our current vendor will continue into the future, and as we learn of new vendors, or we learn of new ways of serving lunch, I would be the one that would be entertaining and vetting those different vendors and whatever that process might be. So the personnel that I oversee directly, I already oversee several of these. There's a little bit of a shift, but the technology team, so we have 2 technology teachers that also help manage our help desk. Off-site, we have a vendor that handles our more infrastructure server level pieces, and we keep them on a consultative contract. The building engineer, or Ms. Williams, that you all know well, the office staff would fall under me because it's not instructional, it's a support staff. It's really important to understand that that's just the leadership organizational chart structure. Becky has a great relationship and Mike has a great relationship with all the people in the office. None of that would change. It would just be within our organizational structure, these would fall under me because they're not classroom-based staff. The other people that I would still oversee or have report directly to me would be the lunch staff and also homeschool leadership. So we do have 2 homeschool programs. One's a 1-day-a-week and another one's a 2-day-a-week program. I've been the person that's been the front-facing staff member on the leadership team that's gone over and helped with their infrastructure, and that will continue. That's why these people are not as instructional in nature, but more leadership. So then that's why they would fall under an operational heading.
Oh, and
so Becky had articulated well about what authority means. So this is the areas or domains of authority that my role, the Director of Operations, would have. So making decisions on technology products, and that includes infrastructure network gear, what brand of Chromebooks, how many iPads, what software we're going to do. And just like Becky had said when she was talking about localized leaders underneath us, that's very true here. We have people that have a wide breadth of knowledge for what particular needs we have. So iStation is something that you all may be familiar with. the district is making a move. We're moving to a new product called iReady to align with them. And so we have some staff members that are experts on that particular software platform. And we'll continue to have them be the ones that are front-facing to the teachers and help us support those products. Facility Management Authority, I would be the one that would be negotiating all of our contracts, vetting any of the different vendors that we have, lunch program, volunteerism, communication, and marketing, all because those are the responsibilities that fall under an operations director. So the committees that I would have direct report to are the Technology Committee, the Communications Committee, which are the ones that I'm currently managing. Architecture and Fundraising had fallen under Mr. Meunier, and he will still be advising on these, but because these are non-instructional in nature, I would then get them under the Director of Operations role. It's really important to know, though, that both of these things have a lot to do with teaching and learning, and Becky would be heavily involved, and we'd be collaborating in all levels of this because we wouldn't want to make any architectural or fundraising decisions that didn't have kids learning at the core. So that's where we would really be collaborating through a lot of this process. That's all I have for the Director of Operations. The business manager role will be covered by Mike Meunier.
The position of business manager has been a part of this school for many, many years. We have an exceptional business manager in Jackie Cody, who could not be here today for this presentation, but she has been with us for 17 years, has seen the gamut of activity in a $4.6 million operation, and she understands it very well. Jackie and I have worked together for the last 4 years very carefully and closely as we've developed budgets and things of that sort. So a lot of what I'll be giving up over this next year is going to end up in Jackie's lap. And so that's going to be something that we'll be working very carefully on to make sure that goes seamlessly along. So a lot of what Jackie does will be impacted because of the time and energy factor more than just about anything else. So she has been doing a lot of these things. The critical one is the budgeting piece, which I've primarily been driving that along with Jackie supporting and helping me understand how some of the money is floating through the system. But bottom line is she will be much more involved in that with our budget review committee as well as with our finance committee, which she also sits on now anyway. So a lot of the tasks will stay the same and add a few at the same time. But with that, we're going to go ahead and add a financial assistant to help her out, because when you think about 4 of us running the organization, Becky, Alan, myself, and Jackie, now we're going down to about 3 1/3 positions. And so that, something's got to give there. And so what we've done is added a financial assistant that'll work about 2 to 3 hours a day with Jackie to help her do things like accounts payable, reconciliation of bank accounts and credit card receipts and things of that sort. Things that take a lot of time and energy that draws her away from the task of managing finances versus doing the grunt work behind it. Next slide. Her authority will be to manage and oversee the finances and work with the 2 directors, Becky and Alan, in making sure that we're spending our monies wisely. So when they start making decisions, Jackie will be drawn into that discussion to make sure that we're not stepping out of bounds in our budget and making sure that we can afford to do what we would like to do. Or making adjustments to that budget and finding other ways where we save money so that we can spend it somewhere else. That's very commonplace in the school. You can set budgets, but then sometimes there's a bit of floating that goes on within that. We are a very, very strong organization financially. We're rated very well with Standards & Poor's. We have an A+ rating with them, along with the situation of what we call the moral obligation with the state of Colorado. And so we're really strong, and we want to keep it that way. She will participate in the Finance Budget Review Committee and the Building Corporation. The Building Corporation is actually a separate entity that technically owns the building. That is it's an organization that all charter schools have to set up so that they can actually own a building, because technically a school cannot have debt go out longer than 1 year, whereas the corporation can carry that debt and we pay the corporation for the lease or the payment, mortgage payment on this property. Okay. So, the big question would be, what am I going to do? You know, what are you sticking around for, Meunier? You know, let's find something for you to do. Well, that wasn't really the case. We were really concerned, frankly, with the fact that me stepping out of the picture would put an undue stress on both my colleagues, all three of them actually, and that we needed to look for a transitional situation. We did make a decision as a board that we didn't want to go out and look for another principal to fill this role, and decided to go with a different little concept. Now, let me say one thing here. When I first entered this organization 4 years ago, it was within the first week of my employment, sitting down with Becky and Alan and Jackie, that I realized we had some incredible talent in this building. And for me to come in and think I was going to act as a chief executive, a CEO kind of concept was ridiculous. I assessed very quickly that we had talent in the building that was going to allow us to really grow, and that if I didn't operate with a shared leadership concept, that could squelch that talent very quickly. And so with that, we started deciding what we were going to do and how we're going to do it. So this concept that you're seeing today of the two directors and the shared leadership environment along with the business manager is something we've been practicing for 4 years, quite honestly. It's just not been named that way. We still have that principal title and assistant principal and director of innovation and so forth. That's really not, we've been doing that, but it's not really what we've been doing in terms of the shared leadership. We spend every Monday anywhere from 2 to 4 hours every Monday working on our plans as a leadership team and deciding where we're going to go, what we're going to do, how we're going to solve problems that pop up and so forth. And we just do it together. So this was such a natural flow into what we're headed into for this next year. But I'm going to participate on the next slide by helping do the transference of specific duties. I'm sad that I did not keep a real good time inventory of everything that I do during a year. Things pop up one time a year, other things pop up a couple of times. We're going to kind of test that, and there'll be things that will roll up and we'll all look at each other, well, who's taking that? Well, in many cases it will be me, but then I'm going to have to also help my other directors to understand that if I'm not here the following year, if we were not to continue this kind of model and stick with the two directors and the business manager, then what would we do and how would we work it out? So we'll have a year to really work through that. But I will be trying to transfer specific duties and tasks that I've been doing over to each of the directors and making sure it's understood and that we're on the same page. Strategic planning is going to be a big part. I'm going to work with the board in June, starting in June, with a real strict strategic plan that outlines our operations needs, our academic needs, and our financial needs, and that's how we'll grade ourselves as we go through the year, is against that strategic plan. And I have a lot of experience developing those plans that can help with that. Another big part of what we'll be doing for me is seeking out grants. We have had very little time to be able to do that. And so me being in Texas, sitting at a desk in my home, I will probably be able to focus much more on drawing money into our organization to help us thrive in areas of need. And then one of the really big ones that we were most concerned about was our charter is up for renewal with Douglas County School Board, School District and Board, and we have to produce a pretty huge document of evidence as to why we should be renewed. Now, you know as well as I, they're not going to not renew us. We're that strong. We're one of the top schools in the state. And again, John Irwin School, 16 years in a row, means we're in the top 8 to 10% of all schools, all 1,852 schools in the state of Colorado, 16 years in a row. But we still need to prove it, and we still need to lay everything out. So that's a big task that Becky and Alan won't have to do, that I'll take on, and that will give us another 5 years of a charter that allows us to not have to worry about that again. Personnel, I'll just be working with our directors and our business manager. And then finally, my authority, I won't have any authority really to speak of. It will be more about my collegial relationship with my three friends here and helping them get their jobs done and help them in anything that I can do. I'm taking a real servant's attitude towards this in terms of every time I talk to them, I say, what can I do? What can I do to help you? Is there something else I could pull off your plate temporarily or finish something out for you? And that would be important. Committees, I'll still participate on these committees as well as I possibly can, whether it be telephonically or actually physically present. I'll be coming back to Colorado once a month. Actually, the first desire of that is to see my boys and my grandkids, but I'm going to wrap that into a business trip of coming here and working with our directors as well as possibly trying to be available for some of these committees as well. And so we're looking at me coming to during the board meeting weeks to where I could be with the board and talk through things that we're doing, and if we don't do that every single time, at least we'll do it telephonically as well.
So for 18-19, the organizational chart, which, remember, all of these groups are supporting the students and kids, but typically the governing board has one employee, and that was the principal. Now the governing board will have two, the director of academics and the director of operations. Mike will be working with us, as he mentioned, in all those capacities, and we will be checking in, the board will be checking in regularly with all the directors, with the school, to find out how this new model is working. If there are any questions, what we might need to tweak, and we'll be analyzing it. They'll be analyzing it all year long. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact any of the leadership team, any of the board members. We want to encourage you to reach out to us if you have any questions at all. Thank you for your time.